Ultimates always get the flashy plays in Overwatch. Whether they're securing team wipes or simply getting a pick or two, ultimates get all the glory. That being said, regular abilities are the linchpin of Overwatch, and consistent ability use can help you climb rank after rank. In this video, we're going to be going over the most powerful 10 single abilities for ranked, and we'll give you one tip to pop off with it and one tip to shut it down. Let's just jump right into it, shall we? Firstly, understand for this list, we are not including passives or non-activated abilities. I also won't repeat any heroes or abilities from the same hero, even though some heroes have multiple insane abilities. Secondly, this list is tailored more towards individual play and less towards team play. While we know Lucio Amp can be one of the most powerful abilities in team setting, it is nowhere near as powerful in an uncoordinated rank setting. All that being said, let's kick it off with number 10, Roadhog Hook. Now, Roadhog Hook is one of the most powerful CC abilities in all of Overwatch, capable of stopping enemies in their tracks, pulling them in, and securing kill after kill. Not only is it a strong ability at allowing Hog to secure kills himself, it also can displace enemy tanks easily and allow you and your team to pop off and get tons of kills. Having incredibly high Roadhog Hook accuracy can be one of the best things in order to have insane impact in your ranked matches. If you can consistently hit those hooks, going on flanks or making these sweet solo plays can be much more viable. Now, the best tip that we have in order to get maximum impact out of using Hog Hook, don't be afraid to move your body left or right and rotate the enemy target towards your team. With this, it's harder to one-shot the enemy, but it gets them displaced more towards your team. This is especially valuable against big tanks. If you can grab an enemy Rhino and pull it sideways into your team, it can make for the focus fire that much easier. Now, the best tip that we have against Roadhog Hook is try to practice good movement versus a Hog. Don't jump or move in a predictable pattern. The best way to dodge Roadhog Hooks consistently, take a step in one direction and stop sporadically, and move really with a stagger in your step, so it's really hard for the Roadhog to predict you. Now, moving on to number 9 on our list, it's Widow's Grapple. Now, you might be curious about just why Widow's Grapple is on this list, but honestly, Widow's Grapple is actually one of the best mobility abilities in the entire game. She can move extremely rapidly, horizontal, and vertical, meaning she can get anywhere on the map on a dime. Widow's Grapple is one of the most powerful aspects about her kit, and it makes her so hard to shut down. You want to dive a Widow, and she can grapple away easily. The best tip we have is using Widow's Grapple is make sure that you're trying to position in a way where you can get the maximum use out of it. Let's say you're playing on the high ground and get dove. You can easily jump down from the high ground away from the enemy, and if anyone goes to pursue you, you can change directions again with your grapple hook. Essentially, setting up in the proper positioning allows you to get even more impact out of your grapple, because many of the enemies are going to be trying to bait out grapple in the first place. Good positioning and high ground placement can make it harder for them to actually punish you, and using the power level of Widow's Grapple means that you could never get punished. Now, that being said, our biggest tip in order to shut down a Widowmaker is try to route to her before using your movement abilities. Let's say you're something like Tracer or Genji. Try to get as close to the Widow as possible without using all your abilities, so once she uses her grapple, you can close the distance with your abilities after the fact. If you try to use all your abilities just getting to the Widowmaker and doing some damage, if you don't manage to kill her, she can easily run away with her grapple. So try to save all your abilities until then and just bridge the gap naturally. Now, moving on to the next ability on our list is Reaper's Wraith. Now, Reaper's Wraith is an extremely powerful ability, granting Reaper increased movement speed, a reload, and the ability to escape from many ultimates in the game. Reaper can easily escape from Sigma ult and all different kinds of CC. On top of this, Reaper's Wraith can be used aggressively and defensively, making it a multifaceted ability that really gets a lot of value. Now, let me break down the biggest tip that we have in order to maximize your use on this ability. The fact that not only Wraith gives you a full ammo reload, but Reaper himself is extremely lethal. If you pretend to run away for a second and turn around and pump the enemy pursuer in the face a couple of times, you can easily turn the tables on a matchup. On top of that, you really need to be tracking when the enemy team has Blizzard or Sigma ult, because you need to be saving Reaper Wraith in order to dodge these abilities. Now, the best tip that we have in order to shut down a Reaper's Wraith is try to bait it out and really listen to the sound kills it gives off. You need to save some abilities in order to punish a Reaper fade, and be ready for Reapers to have mix-ups, and don't overly aggress them. Even though they're in fade, they might actually try to leave fade and punish you instantly. Moving on to number 7 on our list, the 7th strongest ability that Overwatch players can utilize in the entire game is the ability for them to go online and type in GameLeap.com. GameLeap.com has in-depth guides over every single ability on this entire list, So if you want true top 500 insight into mastering each and every ability on this list, definitely come check GameLeap out and you'll start to climb again and again. Now moving on to 7.1 on our list, it's Symmetra's Teleport. Now Symmetra Teleport's a very interesting ability because it has so many different uses. You can route your team to the high ground or take an interesting path straight to point. You can use it to help your teammates that were picked off back from spawn that much faster. You can use it to troll your teammates and put a teleporter that throws them right off the... Essentially what I'm saying is there's so many different uses for Symmetra Teleport and they're all uniquely powerful, meaning that Symmetra Teleport is one of the strongest creative abilities in the entire game. Now the best pro use that we have for Symmetra Teleport is you really need to identify exactly what your purpose is when trying to use it. While using it to bring back teammates can be powerful, if the enemy team speeds onto you rapidly, they can close a team fight extremely fast. Especially think about this, when the enemy team doesn't have ultimates, the fight might not end definitively and you can use your teleporter to get people back from spawn. That being said, later on in the game when the enemy team has tons of ultimates, if they invest all their ultimates, they'll clear you before you have any chance to actually utilize the teleport back to your team. That being said, instead, a better use for Symmetra's Teleport might be to teleport bomb the enemy and get a pick yourself so that you can actually win the team fight. Because if the enemy team has all these ultimates, you'll never be able to utilize that actual teleport back to your team, much in the way I talked about before. Now, the best tip that we have against Symmetra Teleport is make sure that you have a plan if the enemy teleports to point. Make sure to try to scout in advance, especially on a point like Hanamura First D, what the enemy team has before they get to choke. You don't want to be caught off guard if the enemy team teleports straight to point, and a little bit of scouting goes a long way. If you already know that the enemy team has a Symmetra, you could set up a plan that actually scouts for it. On top of that, don't instantly rush the point out of fear if the enemy team teleports to point rapidly. Oftentimes when you get caught by this, you're gonna have to give up a tick or two. That being said, it's better that than running into the point one by one and each of you dying over and over again instead of having a full 6 team fight. It's much better to give up a tick or two and have a full 6 team fight than just lose the whole point because you rushed touching the point because you were fear of losing a tick. Now moving on to number 6, we have Zarya's Team Bubble. Now we already know just how powerful Zarya is as a character, but her Team Bubble is one of the most powerful aspects of her kit. Not only is it multi-use allowing your main tank to take more space, it can save precious allies and it can actually flip matchups between your teammates and the enemies. The best tip that we have in order to get a lot of impact out of Zarya's Team Bubble is after you have 50 plus energy, you may not always need to bubble your Ryan as he goes in. Saving it for an ally is worth tons of value, especially if your Ana's being dove and you can bubble her and then she can turn the tables on the diving DPS because they don't get a pick. That can be worth tons of value and can actually get you a pick yourself. Now the best tip that we have in order to shut down Zarya Team Bubble is don't be afraid of shooting that bubble if the enemy is low or alone. While you never want to unnecessarily shoot Zarya Bubble to give her charge, don't turn her 200 damage shield into a 2-second full invulnerability. Now moving along to the first ability in our top 5 list is Hanzo's Sonic Arrow. Now, information is key in Overwatch, and on a character that can actually one-shot enemies, it's one of the most powerful abilities in the entire game and can have you insane impact and pick potential in your ranked matches. The best tip that we have in order to use Sonic Arrow the most effectively is use it to trap enemy pursuers. If an enemy is trying to actively pursue you, you can easily Sonic Arrow, and even if you're weak, you can use it to turn the tables on the enemy. It's so easy to kill an enemy if they chase you into your Sonic Arrow zone. Headshots are easy to set up if your information is known, so definitely use this to try to turn the tables on enemies. Now the best tip against Sonic Arrow is you really need to keep track of the Sonic Arrow noise and really call out to allies if there's ever a Sonic Arrow anywhere around you. If a Hanzo simply Sonic Arrows the door frame, you don't want your allies to be unaware and take a headshot, forcing you and your team to regroup and have to wait a whole 30 seconds in order for you to have a real team fight again. Now moving into top 4 territory, we're entering abilities that can actually dominate whole team fights by themselves. That means mastery of these abilities can equate to more team fight wins and more SR gains. Kicking it off with number 4 is Ana's Anti-Nade. Now we all know just how powerful an anti-nade can be. With healing being so strong in Overwatch, preventing that healing can lead to pick after pick. Now the best tip that we have for you to get tons of impact when playing Ana is try to learn to combo this ability with things like Orisa Pull. Consistency is the key with Ana nades, and setting yourself up in a position where you can easily nade pull targets or any other setups by your team can be a way to secure tons of kills. Also, mastery of Ana's nade can allow you to splatter the back wall of tanks and easily nade all the people down below them. This is something that you'll definitely need to practice, but if you can master it, you'll get nade after nade in your ranked matches and really start dominating team fights with anti-nade. Now, the best thing that you could do to shut down an Ana nade is really keep track of an Ana's positioning and call it out to your team. An Ana that's on the high ground can easily nade your team if you're not really paying attention to her. Also, if she is up and uncontested, you need to try to pressure her and don't allow her to take positioning that can get her easy nade. Essentially, you need to claim the space that allows her to nade your team easily so that you don't lose a team fight to getting 5-man naded. Now, moving on to number 3, we got Sombra's Hack. Now, Sombra's Hack is one of the most powerful abilities in the whole game because it essentially shuts down a hero entirely. Abilities are the linchpin of Overwatch, like I said in the very beginning, and Sombra basically shuts them down completely. Not only that, but it can shut down ultimates, stop complete plays from happening, and lastly, make an ability-based hero completely useless. Now, the biggest tip we have in order to get the maximum impact out of Sombra Hack is that you don't always need to push out for hacks. Sometimes waiting with your team for a Doomfist or a Hammond to attack your team can be an easy hack. Essentially, what you're doing, instead of being proactive with your hacks and trying to focus things yourself, you hack a target that dives into your team and punish them together with focus fire. Now, our biggest tip that we have against Sombra Hack is be ready to 180 on a whim and really try to pay attention to exactly where a Sombra will come from. There's a ton of heroes with that quick 180 fire can allow you to break that hack from the Sombra and cancel it out, essentially leaving her useless. Remember, a lot of Sombra's power level is in her hack and EMP, so if you can prevent them consistently, you can get tons of value and waste her time altogether. Now, before we get to the top 10 abilities in all of Overwatch, let me tell you what you need to do in order to master them as quickly as possible. GameLeap.com has some of the best guides that you'll find anywhere that will allow you to master these abilities as quickly as possible. We have tons of in-depth guides, advanced tips, and VOD reviews. If you're serious about becoming a Grandmaster Overwatch player, definitely come check it out risk-free at the links here. Now, moving on to the second most powerful ability in all of Overwatch, we have Maywall. Now, Maywall is one of the most annoying abilities to play against, and it's one of the most dominant abilities if you can master correctly. Walling off 1 or 2 targets behind a choke point can mean a free team fight win, which means free ultimate charge for you and your team. On top of that, Mei can often cascade into 1 fight 1 over and over again, and her Mei wall feels sometimes oppressive to get through. The best tip that we have in order to maximize your impact on Mei wall is that make sure that when you're trying to wall off a choke point, be wary of flanks upon yourself. Sometimes Mei's tunnel vision putting up the wall so much that they're completely unaware of things that are trying to actively kill them or shut them down. For example, on Hanamura first defense, a Hanzo can easily wall climb and headshot you if you're not paying attention. Don't be stationary and try to pay attention to your surroundings and listen for anyone trying to make a play upon you, because you could easily become picked off if you tunnel vision putting up the wall. Now, the best tip that we have in order to shut down Maywall is don't forget that you can actually destroy Maywall. Many people seem to forget that it's destructible and never shoot at it. What you need to do is the second that one of your tanks are walled off, you need to call exactly what side you're doing damage to and say, everyone shoot left side of Maywall. This way you could break through a section of the Maywall and at the very least supply heals to the tank behind the other side, maybe keeping them alive long enough for you to regroup together. Now, moving on to the last and most powerful single ability in all of Overwatch, we have Baptiste's Immortality Field. Now, Immortality Field is one of the most powerful abilities in all of Overwatch because of just how much it can do. Immortality Field almost feels like an ultimate simply because of just how powerful it is. The raw potential of invulnerability is essentially limitless in Overwatch and can lead to some insane plays or the ability to shut down many of the enemy's ultimate combos. That's why Immortality Field is the strongest single ability for ranked. Now, the best tip that we have in order to maximize Immortality Field's effectiveness is make sure that you place it around natural cover when possible. This makes it really hard to focus or break when the enemy team want to push up and essentially negates a lot of its weaknesses. Also, call out when using it and make sure to tell your team when you're gonna use it. Your teammates can match the aggression level of their plays if they know that they're gonna be bailed out with the Immortality Field, and relaying that information can be a big way to get more value out of it as a team. Now, the best tip that we have in order to shut down the oppressive Immortality Field is try not to overcommit resources without first baiting out Immortality Field. Far too many teams use every single ability and resource, and when the enemy team throw down an Immortality Field, they have nothing left. Their abilities like Storm Arrow and Helix are off cooldown. They already use many shield, health, and ability resources, so they don't have enough left to take down the Immortality Field, and that's just enough to turn the team fight in the enemy's favor. Make sure you balance that commitment level and always keep in the back of your mind that Immortality Field is going to come out at some point. Once the Immortality Field is focused down, then you can fully engage and actually secure a team fight. Anyways, that's all I have for you today. I hope this guide has been extremely helpful for you. Any questions, please leave them in the comments down below, and any video ideas that you want to see or VOD reviews that you want to see, please let me know. I would love to make them. Anyways, that's all I have for you today. I'm Coach Mills, and until next time.